haven't even got proper uniforms on. All right. Okay, all right. No guffawing, no guffawing, no guffawing. Here we go. Oh, I say hello there. Yes, hello. You are the American Army, I presume. Very good. Yes, I am Commander Livingston of His Majesty's Royal Military, and we are here to do battle. Although, I do believe that we did agree upon noon. Is that correct? It's not a problem. It's all right. It's just in the future when you say you're going to be someplace. It's and everything. Okay, very good, very good. Shall we have at it then? All right. Would you like to take a few moments to get ready? You're ready now. They're ready now.
It's hardly a formation there.
All right, all right. No guffawing. I've said this. Okay, very good. Very well. Since we are the assaulting army, you have the privilege of taking the first volley, right? And then we shall return, and so on and so forth. So, Godspeed. Let's have a good one, and good luck to you. All right, men. Now, let's show them what we Brits are made of. Stand your ground. Oh, you've got one. Good shot. Very good shot, actually. That was Timothy. He's our maps and navigations expert. We'll be in a pinch without him. Good fall. All right? Now it's our turn to take a volley, so. Oh, all right, men. Let's get ready. Muskets at the ready. And, do me a favor. Let's have a little fun with this. Try and pick the one you think might be their maps and navigations expert, right? Right. Oh! Hey! No! Now you've had your turn. You've just taken 2 volleys, and we haven't even had one. Now, I know that for a lot of you Americans, this is your first parlay. But there are rules in modern warfare. We're not dumb beasts, right? Now, since you've taken 2 volleys, we will take 2 volleys, and then you may return fire. You're, in effect, losing a turn. Right. Hey! Hey! Now you know the rules. I've just explained them to you. This battle's barely even started yet, and I'm down to only a handful of men. You're doing very poorly in this war, I might say. Now, we will take 3 volleys, and I do believe we should be allowed the privilege to move forward 5 meters because of your willful violation. Oh! Oh! Who took a shot at the CO? You took a shot at the... Reprimand that man! Reprimand that man! I will file a very important...
On June of 1775, okay, General Thomas Gage of the British Army has a battle plan, and he thinks it's a good one. Okay, what he's going to do is he is going to get rid of the rabble and the rebels in the city of Boston. So he lands his troops by longboat down in here. And the Americans the night before know the Gage is coming. Okay, so they send out people, and they're ordered to reinforce a place called Bunker Hill, except they go to the wrong one. Okay, and they end up going to a place called Freed's Hill. Okay, now Gage just knows that the Colonials will be scared to death when they see those bright red uniforms. Okay, so his battle plan is to land, and he's got his troops in row after row after row, and their idea is to march straight up the hill here, okay, in front of the colonists who are dug into chest-high battlements. Okay, is anybody starting to see the flaw with the plan? Okay, because they have to march all the way up here. In the meantime, what's happening?
They're getting shot.
Yeah, they're getting shot because those bright red uniforms that were designed to scare the bejesus out of the colonists are quite good targets. Yes, okay. So what happens is the British are going to get wiped, okay, for a while, okay, until they actually take the trenches and stuff like that. Now, on Friday, a lot of you, when you're doing the research for it, I noticed that you thought that the Americans won the battle of Bunker Hill, but technically, did we? Why not?
We ran out of ammo.
Ran out of ammunition and had to do what?
Run away.
Okay, retreat. Run away. Okay.
That guy was running away.
Well, you know. Okay, Bunker Hill, Breeds Hill, British attack. Okay. Around 250 BC, there was a Greek general by the name of Pyrrhus. Okay. And he was at war with the Roman Empire. And he fought 2 battles, okay, pretty close to one another. And he was victorious each time. Except at the end of the second battle, Pyrrhus looks around and he looks to find his victorious army, and it's laying in shattered ruin. They've taken the field, the Romans are driven off, but what did he not have anymore? He didn't have an effective fighting force. This is what is known as a Pyrrhic victory. Okay, that is exactly what the British had. Did they win the day? Yeah, but if you win more battles like that, what happens? You're going to lose the war. Okay? 1/6 of all British officers who were killed in the entire revolution, which is going to last for a grand total of 8 years, die at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Why? 2 things. Number 1, the British placement of the officers in harm's way, which is the natural leadership position. And then 2, okay, the colonists were not very sporting, right? What did they do?
Shooting.
Hey, look at that guy over there with a funny hat. Bang. Okay, the British are like, you can't do that. Oh, we just did. Okay, because the British believed, or most of the other European powers believed, that you had to have officers on the field to maintain order. You had to fight an orderful war. Okay, it would just be chaos and, I don't know, people would die and stuff. Okay, so. Because of this, the colonists had submitted the olive branch petition to the king. The king is like, I'm not even going to touch that. Okay, you just killed the king's own troops. And an assault on the king, an assault on the king's troops is like an assault on the king. What this also does is make the British very, very cautious. Okay, it's like the David and Goliath scenario. Okay, 250-pound guy goes into the ring. There's a little 125-pound guy. He knows he's going to pummel him with one fist. So suddenly the guy jumps up, delivers a fast roundhouse kick to the head, and the big giant goes, boom. Alright? So, the British should have won the war on several points during this time frame, except they're not going to be able to pull it off. That would be General Montgomery dying. Okay, 1775, right? The American Continental Congress authorizes an American military engagement in Canada. Why do we want Canada? I mean, it's Canada.
Syrup is hockey.
Hockey, eh?
We want furry little animals.
Moose and
Good animals, okay.
We want them as a 4th colony. A 14th colony.
There you go.
I say the
Okay.
moose.
America has this strange fixation with Canada. Sometimes it's like, you're going to notice this for about the next century. We look up north and we just start salivating. It's like, oh. I mean, just think, if America would have annexed Canada in 1775, what would have changed?
America wouldn't have
Nothing, probably. Maybe hockey night, I don't know. Now, why do the Canadians rebuff the advances of the Americans? Why do they fight so hard? Why do the French-speaking Canadians support England?
Because they have rights.
Yeah, because the British are nice to them. So Quebec Act and everything else are like, okay, we may speak French. We may historically hate the British, but they've been kind of nice. And you're invading my house. Go away, Americans. Okay, so what do? They whoop on us and we live at home. August of 1776. Okay, George Washington has a plan. His plan is to take the young, untested Continental Army. He's going to march it out of Massachusetts. And he's going to head it up into the Loyalist-controlled state of New York. And he's going to go through the Loyalist-controlled state of New York. And he's going to go and put it on a geographical entity known as an island. Okay? Now, islands are surrounded by water. Who has the best navy in the world? Britain. So George is going to take the untrained army, cross the water, and put it on an Island. Oh, George. Okay, not the best idea, right? Because when he gets there, what's going to happen, simply put, is he's going to form his lines. And he's going to think that he's safe and strong. However, Howe is going to come in, hit his flank. The Hessians are going to hit him from here, and the whole thing becomes a disaster. The American army is in full retreat. Okay? Howe presses the advantage, but later that afternoon he stops. Why? Tea time. Okay?
Wow.
Okay? The British Army, they stop. They decide to not push it for the rest of the day. They'll rest the men and continue the fight tomorrow. Okay? Darkness falls. Washington is wondering what to do. He knows that he's going to get attacked in the morning and things aren't looking good. The Revolutionary War ends here. Washington is captured and executed. The army is defeated. Except during the night, an incredibly dense fog settles on Long Island. Washington then gathers every boat that he could. Okay? They put the men in the boats, they muffle the oars with rags, and they silently sail right under the nose of the British Navy, all the way to the other side, to New Jersey.
Isn't that kind of what happened at like the very beginning of World War II, where Germany invaded France and they fled across the channel?
Yep. When this happens, okay, the fog lasts throughout the night and late into the next morning. When it finally lifts, okay, around noonish,
Where'd they go?
the British look and what do they see?
Nothing.
They're gone. Okay, George has made his escape. He lives to fight another day. This becomes known as the Divine Thaw. Because we know that God loves Americans. Okay? Okay, this is the famous inaccurate depiction of Washington doing what? Crossing the Delaware. There's a good explanation of it in your book. Check it out.
What?
Okay, it's Christmas night, 1776. George is sad because he's under a lot of pressure. Okay, he's gotten his tail kicked at Long Island. People's confidence in him is shaken. Okay, the troops still like him, they still want to follow him, but the Continental Congress is thinking about replacing him with a man by the name of Horatio Gates, who was a former British officer. Okay, would have been a very, very bad thing to do. All right, George then has a plan. Okay, and the plan is going to be he's going to have a two-pronged attack across the Delaware. He's going to cross at night, okay, and in a pincer move, attack the Hessian-controlled garrison in Trenton, New Jersey. Okay, it is extremely cold. Some of his men are actually going to freeze to death, okay, in the night. That they get down there, they get in place, okay, and they launch an attack. Now, this is Christmas night. There's always been a lot of talk about were the Hessians drunk? Is that where they're so easily taken? Okay, now, let's not think about this. Okay, they're soldiers, they're a long way from home, it's a holiday, and they're German. Was there probably beer consumed on Christmas Day? Yes. Was the entire Hessian garrison wasted?
Yes.
No. No. Okay, did they have their people on patrol and things like that? Yes. Okay, did Washington achieve surprise? Yes and no. He's crossing a river with an army in boats. Okay, is it possible that somebody would have seen him? Yeah. Okay. Late that night, okay, as Washington is crossing the Delaware, there's a knock on the fort. Okay, sentry checks it out, and there's a guy, a note for the colonel. Okay, that guy says, "I'll take it." It goes to where the colonel is. The colonel is in his quarters. It's Christmas evening. He is playing cards, smoking cigars, and drinking brandy, along with his other, German officers and stuff like that. There's a knock on the door. The sentry comes up. He says, "Yes." Okay, comes in. There's a note for you, Commander. Right, hands him the note. Okay, the commander, Colonel Rahl, takes the note, folds it up, puts it in his pocket, and continues to play cards, smoke cigars, and drink brandy. Okay, a few hours later, here the Americans start screaming, right, as they start the attack. The Hessians are quickly overwhelmed in a lot of areas. The colonel grabs his sword and he runs out to organize the defense, but suddenly he is shot and mortally wounded. As they're moving his body, what do they find in his pocket? A note that says Washington is crossing the Delaware to arms to arms. Okay, so moral of the story is read your mail when you get it. Okay? What does this do? It possibly saves Washington's job as a commander. He goes on to follow up a couple weeks later at Princeton, New Jersey, and defeats the British there. Okay? And it turns the tide quite a bit for the young army. Thomas Paine, in the winter of 77 to 78, is going to write something known as the Crisis. Please don't write all this down, okay? Just understand what it was doing. When he writes this, things are not going well. Okay, we're kind of like floundering, trying to know what to do. There's inflation. The troops aren't getting paid. They're deserting. You know, Washington is trying to like keep the whole thing like together. And he writes in here, these are the times to try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered yet. We have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Okay, Washington will have these words read to the troops at a little place called Valley Forge, okay, in Pennsylvania. This is the winter camp from 77 to 78 for the American Continental Army. It was a time of hardship. It's not quite as harsh, actually, as it's depicted a lot. I mean, the troops did have places to stay and things like that. But food was rationed. Okay, it was bitterly cold. And the English army, I believe it was less than 30 miles away, but never took the advantage to attack because they were in their winter quarters. Okay, the Battle of Saratoga. Okay, for as far as the AP exam wants you to know, they want you to know three things about wars in American history. First, turning point, and last. Okay? This particular case, this is going to be the turning point battle of the American Revolution. A British general by the name of John Burgoyne is going to head south out of Canada with his army. His intention is to crush the army under Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold. Okay? Over several weeks, the armies and their Indian allies are going to like fight back and forth, back and forth. At one point, the British seems to have the Americans on the run. Gates turns tail and flees. Right? Arnold rides out on his horse, okay, waving his sword, rallying the troops, ends up getting shot in the foot, and basically saves the day. The Americans are going to rally. They're going to encircle the British. Burgoyne is forced to surrender. So a major British force is now out of action. Across the water in France, the French are looking at this going, Suddenly they think, hey, they might actually win. Okay, Saratoga also becomes the turning point from an internal British affair and a revolutionary war for the colonists to a world war. First, France declares war on England, and a year later, Spain wins. Okay, this proves huge because the Franco-American alliance of 1778, the French come to our aid full time. Probably one of the interesting things about this that's going to come out of it is going to be this guy right here. Okay, Benedict Arnold, pound for pound, probably the greatest soldier in the American Revolution. He was a hero at Quebec, Ticonderoga, and also Saratoga. Without him, a lot of the early victories would not have happened. But the problem is, every time that there was a major victory, and he was the person responsible, somebody else always got the credit. And he had a big ego. And finally, he's like, this sucks. Okay, I'm doing all the work, I'm not getting into the award, I'm getting passed over for promotion by lesser men. He also had a wife who was a loyalist. Okay, and she kept whispering in his ear, you know, England loves you, honey. Okay, so one day, what does he do? He doesn't kill her. What is wrong with you, Wayne? Okay, what he does, maybe I don't know, I'm not going to say that, okay? What he does was he gives the plans for West Point, the Fort of West Point on the Hudson, to the British. A major by the name of Andre is then taking this information back to the British lines when he's captured by an American patrol. They search him, and they find the plans. Arnold hears this, and he flees to the British lines. Once he gets over there, the British are going to make him a general in the British Army, and he's going to fight against his former compatriots. Okay, they hang the spy, and And instead of going down as maybe one of the best generals in the American Revolution, he's now synonymous with what? Yep.
What's his name?
Benedict Arnold.
Okay.
Okay, the British are going to try a new technique, and they're going to start a southern campaign from 78 to 81. Okay, the new British battle plan is to roll up the southern colonies. Okay, they attack Charleston. They come to Georgia. They capture 5,000 American troops there. You know, it kind of goes back and forth, the ebb and flow of the battle through this time frame. Americans check them at different spots, places like Guilford Courthouse and Cowpens. Okay, but it's going to pretty much head north. Has anybody ever seen the Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot?
Yeah.
Okay, very, very inaccurate portrayal of the American Revolution. However, there's a couple of scenes in there that are actually fairly good. The one bad guy who like burns up the colonists in the church and those scenes, stuff like that, is based upon a actual character by the name of Bannister Tarleton, who was the right-hand man of the guy whose name I can't remember right now. Cornwallis, thank you. Okay, the final major battle of the American Revolution is going to be the Battle of Yorktown, okay, in 1781. By 1781, guess who's arrived in force? The French. Okay? Cornwallis was actually an outstanding general. He's going to go on to do greater things in the Napoleonic Wars and things like that, but he makes some stupid assumptions. Okay, number one, he puts his back against the York River. But he shouldn't fear that, because who does he have on his side? The British Navy. Okay, they go out through the York River, out to the Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic Ocean. Da-da-da, we're saved. Okay, but guess who shows up? The French fleet. The French fleet then bottles up the Chesapeake Bay. There are no reinforcements. Okay, suddenly over here, it's the French. Okay, Washington's army is over here, and he's outnumbered by several thousand. So he decides, you know what, I'm going to do a Washington. So he gets in his boat, and he says, I'm going to head over to the Gloucester area over here, and I'll make my escape. So they all get in the boats, and they're trying to go. Suddenly, guess what happens? A huge storm. And they're blown back across the river. There lie once again, showing that God loves Americans. Okay? Right? Now, Cornwallis is in a tight spot. Because what happens is they start basically digging siege lines closer and closer until boom, boom, boom. Cornwallis has to surrender. Okay, with the surrender of Cornwallis' army, the British lose the will to fight. The war is unpopular back home. They're like, this is expensive. Let them become independent. Who cares? 6 months later, they're going to be begging to come back. This whole idea of democracy, never going to work. Okay? So just to put it up, the British Navy gets defeated. Cornwallis is a huge blunder. Okay, could we have done this without the French? No. Okay, the presence of the French fleet was critical, as well as the thousands upon thousands of French soldiers that were there. Okay, the war is going to go on for 2 years. The Treaty of Paris will not end the war until 1783, but this is the last battle. Okay, the sides pretty much back off. There's skirmishes and things like that, but nothing huge. George Washington will accept, or well, actually, the second of George Washington will accept the surrender. That picture of George Washington has always really bothered me, too.
So unfortunately, though.
Anybody ever seen the movie Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
You know at the end of the movie, when like Michael Keaton is talking crap and he like steals the witch doctor's number and he sprinkles the magic dust on his head and it shrinks his head?
That's huge.
Yep.
As a kid.
Did they do that on purpose?
I have no idea.
Maybe
really
to like
hope he
show
doesn't
he
look like
wasn't
that.
that smart or something.
Okay. Any questions about any of those battles? Okay, the last thing that we're gonna, yes?
Well, with the Valley Force and stuff, why do they make such a big deal out of it?
Perseverance.
Because they always feel like, and wow.
You gotta think about this, okay? If the army falls apart in that harsh winter, they never come back.
But there's more of the fact that's more like, while the Americans were freezing, people were making money off the British.
There was that too, yeah. Okay. All right, so we've seen how like we were supposed to win the war and things like that. The last thing I'm going to show you is a clip out of The Patriot. which kind of shows the other reasons why the Americans actually win the Revolutionary War. Okay, this would be Mel Gibson and his kids. Okay, you notice that the American militiamen were actually something more than
Start with the
normal.
officers and work your way down. You tell the difference.
Again, Americans hopelessly outnumbered, just a man and his 2 children taking on scores of British soldiers.
Make me fast and accurate.
But sometimes weapons can give you an edge.